morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to another season of WOR. We are here for season 22. It is going to be a great one. We're here for PC Tier 2 once again around Las Vegas. We're starting off here in Sin City. My name is Max Ring. I'll be one of the main commentators this season. I'm usually joined by Corey, but this time around I am joined by Joseph Black, and just behind him, which he has decided to cover up, even though I mentioned it beforehand, his good friend Craig the Bear. So, hello Joseph, how are you on this Monday evening?
Oh, good. Very excited to be joining you for this one-off appearance. Unfortunately, Corey's Virgin has given him a few problems. So, of course, the internet, which means that I've had to step in last minute. But we should be all good to get going, and it'll be a very exciting race to kick off the season. Of course, as you say, Sin City and Las Vegas, and not a traditional season opener, but a good one nonetheless.
No, it certainly is not. It should be a very eventful race indeed. Of course, you have that really long strip to get that run. Of course, to get those moves done with the DRS. I'll quickly take you to the placement screen so we quickly run you through the drivers we are going to have this season. So here are the drivers. They have just entered into qualifying, but just before we head over there, I'll run you through who are the full-time and who are the reserves. So we've got Diego Zorzo, Ryan Modler, Lucas Baisner, Tom Roberts, Cameron Dowds, Gabor Jontos, Tamash Kokeni, Joel Marquardt, JSD, and Joe Hannon. Going under, oh my god, it's Joe, if you remember his old Xbox username, as the first 10. Then the second lot of full-time drivers is Tony Hitala, Matthias Van Erven, Abe Gabadi, Carlos Galindo, Alexi Cavoro, Scott Holmes, Renz Tomasson, Conrad Bohm, Raves Intiaz, Gabriel Quintino, rounding out your full-time drivers. Then your reserves are Langrock, Bakar, Labella, Florian Van Zelter, Aaron Raminguez, Igor Piaszewski, Wojciech Steg, Valentin Brefer, Laurie Tulke, Stephen Vasso, Jensen Rosen, and Simon Lukaminsky. A very stacked lineup for this season, Joseph, as we head trackside. It should be a very eventful and close championship ahead.
It certainly should be. Everybody pretty much matched in ability, so it'll be very interesting to watch them sort of compete across this season, where some drivers will be better at different circuits, so of course they'll have their time in the limelight. Not necessarily anyone who would be a nailed-on championship contender, you know, the likes of Jan Halliday not racing this season, so it'd be very interesting to watch all these new drivers try to make their name. A couple of promotions as well, of course. Renz being one of them. Renz Thomasson, one of the Kick Saubers for this evening. Giving it a go. I believe he was PC Tier 3 last season, so it's giving him an opportunity. Ray Imtiaz as well, a former Tier 3 champion. He'll be traversing the streets of Las Vegas this evening and trying to establish himself up the very top of this field. But there's a lot of very exciting drivers here. And the first one on a lap, Gabriel Quintino.
Yeah, Gabriel Quintino on a lap time. Now, we were just on board with Matthias Van Erven, currently in the first sector as well. But we'll head over to the Mercedes man, who's actually just behind Van Erven. So we'll head straight back over to the Williams driver, as of course he'll be setting the benchmark for this first round of the season, the first qualifying lap of the season, as well, as he now heads into turns 9, 10 and 11. Of course, 9 and 10, these little part of the S section, and you're braking while turning into 11 as you're headed down to third gear over that inside apex curve. Make sure you don't invalidate or run too wide to tap the wall. He does ever so slightly, but that should not affect his run too much, as he now makes his way all the way down this Las Vegas strip. DRS open for Van Erven as we now make our way into the final chicane and the final braking point of the circuit. Down to third gear, you then want to bring that throttle back up over that inside curve nicely. The rear of the car just dances around ever so slightly as well, but he's able to keep it nice and tidy. This is the benchmark. This is what everybody be looking forward to for the first lap of the session. It's a 1 minute 29.7. It'll be closely followed in by Gabriel Quintino, who's just beaten that by a tenth and a half. So a good lap time there from Mercedes. Instantly beaten now from Gabo Shontos. The times will be coming in thick and fast. Is that Conrad Bone coming to the line? No, it's not. It's actually Rinston Masson coming up to the line. He goes fourth fastest on the 29.7. I'm expecting close times here, Joseph, with the amount of straight lines around this track. But so far, it's actually Tamas Kokeni who now takes that top spot.
Certainly is, and we had a look at this the other day, a little sneak peek in Tier 1, and a lot of the drivers were pretty matched together. I believe the top four was split by just under a tenth of a second. I'll be corrected, by the way, about Rens Thomason. He did not race in Tier 3. But we do have a couple of promotions. We have Ave Gabadi and Carlos Galindo and Alexi Cavero promoted from last year's Tier 3, and Scott Holmes climbing 2 tiers up to tier number 2 here today. So very, very good progress from him, and Carlos Galindo now actually around the final corner to set his first lap in Tier 2, but it's going to be the slowest of all by 0.2 of a second. Not a great lap from him so far as Conrad Bohm goes up to the front row of the field. He gets a 29.551, but nobody seemingly able to get anywhere near, not even touch Tamas Kokeni's 29.412. What can Lucas Beisner do around the final corner? He's just come through the chicane, and he's going to come around and sweep towards the finish line. It's going to be a 1:29.825, and it's going to be Tom Roberts, the last driver out on circuit, having not set a lap just yet. But I think he's going to come into a bit of traffic, so I'm not sure this is going to be the most representative time.
No, I don't think it is. I think he might mistime this one ever so slightly. We saw the end to Carlos Galindo's lap, and he had a bit of a scrappy final chicane. Just tapped the wall, lost the rear of the car as well, and then went into the other side of the wall. A bit like what we saw Colapinto do in the 2024 qualifying. But here we are then with Tom Roberts now heading into that final chicane. He's had to navigate a load of traffic over the course of this lap as he now makes his way through there. A little dab of the throttle actually mid-apex through the first part of the chicane, and now making his way up until that start-finish line as you head through the final corner. Keep a nice tight run to the line. Tom Roberts, where can he go? 10th fastest for the Red Bull, a 29.772. Super close throughout this field, but no one can match so far that lap time of Tamas Kokeni. Nearly a tenth and a half to the good. And that is actually, apart from the gap between Cavoro and Galindo, the biggest margin we have between two drivers throughout this field. And Kokeni really starting this session off strong.
Very, very much so. Tamas Kokeni, very good start from him to this season and to this qualifying session. But of course, he still has a lot of work to do. This first lap won't be the pole time or anywhere near it, I wouldn't imagine, as the race will get a little bit more interesting as we head into it. And well, of course, it's not too far away, but the last couple of qualifying runs will be put in, but not bad from Tamas Kokeni as he seeks his another season where he competes in World Online Racing Tier 2. Last season, he was able to pick up a podium on his first outing, so he'll be hoping for something pretty similar to what he was able to do there. Everybody else into the pit lane apart from Johannan and Gabriel Quintino, who's been very keen. He was the first one out on a run in the first set of them, and this time he is going to be the second one. It will be the Williams of Johannan to kick us off for the second lot of runs, and he'll be hoping to find at least 0.4 of a second to compete with Tamas Kokeni's time, if not 5 or 6 tenths, just to be that little bit safe.
Yeah, 100% indeed. Of course, we'll need to find plenty of time throughout this lap. And, of course, with it being a short qualifying session, that pressure is on for that pole position, that little bit more than a full qualifying. And then, as well, these drivers having to navigate potentially some mixed conditions in the race. Because I am hearing from the drivers' chat that it is a wet race for this evening. I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not, but I am hearing there could be potential for a wet race. So that could potentially mean some drivers might be a little bit slower as they are on wet setups and may not be where you would expect. But here we are then with Johannan as he's about to start his second flying lap of the session. If he finds a tenth of a second, it will put him all the way up into that top 9. So it just shows how even finding a small bit of time can still certainly improve your position. So as he heads down into turn 1, braking as the curb starts, down to 3rd gear. Lovely amount of apex curb to then bring the car out through turn 2 and then into 3. Slowly bring that power back up as you then open up the DRS as you head into turn 4. A very awkward corner is this turn for you. It's off camber and you naturally understeer towards that outside wall, down to 3rd gear. Just gives the wall a little bit of a nudge with that rear tyre, and he's down by 0.004 of a second in that first sector as we now make our way through turn 6 and 7 and then into turn 8, down to 3rd gear. Again, another corner where you understeer all the way until the wall. But so far for Joe Hannon, he's made it through rather cleanly around this street circuit as he now makes his way into turn 11, down to 3rd gear, over that inside apex curb. Lovely amount of curb, really pushing it on those track limits, and he's up by nearly 0.2 of a second in that middle sector, of course. Track evolution over the course of this short qualifying session will be substantial and will be quite huge over the course of these 18 minutes, but for Joe Hannon, he has found plenty of time so far as he now makes his way into that final braking zone. 100 meter board, down to 3rd gear, over that inside apex curve, over the 2nd curve nicely as well, then just full blast all the way to the line. Use the rest of your battery, use everything you've got to make your way to that start finish line. Where's this lap time going to put the Williams driver? And he's good enough for the top 6. He's lost a bit of time in that final sector, but still a very strong lap time there from Joe Hannon.
Certainly is. I think he will be a bit naturally disappointed, though. I think there is more time in that lap, and there is more time out there in this qualifying session. Having a look at Conrad Bohm, he's just had the opportunity to improve a little bit more, and he's looking to make it an all-Hungarian top row of the field with, of course, himself on the very top of it. Everybody is about to be on a lap. Alexi Cavero, Carlos Galindo are coming around to it as Tamas Kokeni raises the bar even higher. 29.3 is the lap time that the Mercedes has set, and that is a very good time as Conrad has invalidated. Who else is on a good lap? Gabo Shontos is not improving after 2 sectors. He's lost a lot of time in that second one. John Marquard's about to come up to the line as Abe Gabadi peels off into the pit lane. Marquard is going to go up to 4th place. He jumps Gabriel Quintino, and that's not a terrible lap time, all things considered. Matthias Van Erven will be the next one up to the line. He's in 12th at the moment, needs 2.5 hundredths of a second to catch up to Tom Roberts. Make that 2.5 tenths as he goes up to the 2nd row of the grid. That's a very strong lap time, and that is very much a statement to everybody else. He's managed to jump his teammate in the meantime, which is a very, very well done job. Rayan Bakar up to the line. What can he do? 29.575. So everybody's finding 29.5s, but Tamas Kokeni did that on the last run, and he's now extending his advantage.
Yeah, no one seemed to come anywhere near Kokeni once again. Just seemed to absolutely dominate so far in this qualifying session. Bazin now puts his car up to 6th fastest. I think we still got both the McLarens making their way to the line. Yes, we do. We got Diego Zorzo, who's up by 0.2 of a second. That was John Marquard moving himself up for 29.6. Here comes Zorzo at 29.4, still a 10.5 shy, but we are slightly closer to Tamas Kokeni this time around. Galindo to the line. He goes 16th. Alexi Cavero unfortunately pulls into pit lane as he's the only driver still in those 1 minute 30s. But a few drivers invalidating and aborting their laps, just pulling into pit lane. So it shows that the mistakes certainly can be made. It's a circuit that does punish, of course, being a street circuit. And for the likes of Cameron Dowds, I saw him come into pit lane, Cavero as well. They're showing that this track does bite. And for Conrad Bohm too, who invalidated his attempt on what could have been good enough to rival Kokeni, it's all going to come down to these final runs of qualifying.
Certainly is. The pressure is going to be on more now than ever, and it's down to every one of these drivers out there to try and test Kokeni's resolve. They're testing their own resolve as well. How well can they hold up to the candle? How well can they hold a candle up to Tamas Kokeni? At the moment, the answer is, well, not particularly well, because the only driver within a tenth and a half is Diego Zorzo, who in fact is only just outside. And you can only find one driver within 2/10 of Kokeni. And, well, that's just an unbelievable gap he's been able to eke out at this point in time. Diego Zorzo gets a 5-place grid penalty. That will be removed as we head into the race session. And he makes it with Rens Thomason. Rens is a very interesting one, I feel, because he was absolutely dominant on the console side. One of the best drivers in that field. He's made the switch over now, and well, at the moment he's not looking too out of place. 8th place is where he is currently, and he's going to be ahead of his old rival Dowds. They were scrapping it out for console titles for a while on F1 24, and now a new game and a new console for him to try and conquer 8th. Is the best that he can muster at the moment. His teammates up in 3rd, so doing an objectively better job. But towards the end of this session, with 3 minutes 49 left, that could all be set to switch.
It certainly could have done, as Quintino was just up by under a tenth and a half. And unfortunately invalidated that lap time coming into that final chicane, and he can't find an improvement once more. Of course, at one point, was sitting 6th in this session. Has dropped down to 11th. Just look how close that field spread is. Rens Thomassen to Conrad Bohm is 0.04 of a second. It is oh so close throughout this field that a small improvement, a minimal improvement, especially if you're in the case of Thomassen, where even if you do find that half a tenth, you're putting yourself on the second row of the grid. It is just minimal margins separating these guys, and that's what makes qualifying oh so special in this tier. But as we now see, as one driver leaves the pit lane, that would have been a JST. Everybody else now follows. The herd now stampedes their way out of the pit lane. It is Conrad Bohm which will lead these drivers onto the circuit. He made a mistake last time around on his qualifying lap, and this time around he'll have to make amends, but of course there is no redos after this. And we will have a lobby restart for that Zorzo penalty. And I can confirm it was a wet race, but because of course we restarted dynamic weather, that now shakes things up entirely. And it does mean that the drivers that potentially set themselves up for the wet weather, unfortunately, that strategy is now gone to nothing.
Certainly is. It'll be very difficult for the drivers to deal with it if, of course, they've set their minds on going for a real race. But of course, Parc Ferme, I say real race, it's a wet race. Those are the ones where it really tests the driver's abilities. The Parc Ferme is off, so they wouldn't have to set up their cars now. They wouldn't have to make that gamble now. But of course, it is going to play on the minds of some drivers, and I know there's a few in this field, maybe not this evening, but across the course of the season, who are big fans of wet weather racing. Dennis Langrock, he was on the reserve list for this evening. He did not make the main race itself, but he would have been licking his lips to see some wet weather. I know Gabriel Quintino as well would have been very intrigued by the prospect. But now as we head around the final couple of corners with the first few drivers, the final laps of this qualifying session, of this first qualifying session of season 22 are underway.
They certainly are, and it is Joel Marquardt who does lead that herd as we now make our way up into turn 4 and nearly at the end of that first sector. We'll keep a close eye on Conrad Bohm as well as he, of course, attacks his lap. Marquardt nicely done through 4, taps the barrier so slightly, 200s up on his lap. What about Conrad Bohm? He's up by half a tenth in that first sector. But as we go back on board with Marquardt as he makes his way through turn 8, keeps it out of that wall ever so slightly, and as he now makes his way through the winding turns 9 and 10. Of course, 10 is a bit like Bahrain turns 9 and 10, where it just leads into that braking zone. And then later the brakes, but he goes a little wide, and that's going to cost him dear time as Cameron Dowds has retired on the road. I'm not sure if that is because he didn't make it out in time or potentially got to listen next invalidation. But here we see Marquardt as he makes his way up the Las Vegas strip now. What is this going to be for the Aston Martin driver? It's closely behind his teammate Lucas Baesner when it comes to overall lap time as he now makes his way through that chicane and now looking to that start-finish line. Can he progress any further up the top 10? Can he potentially break into that top 5? I don't think he will with that jink of the steering wheel, and no, he will not. But what about Conrad Bohm as he makes his way to the line? Just misses out on that pole position. Kokeni still holding that firm grasp. We'll look back to Diego Zorzo, who's on his lap time. Matthias van Erven, 5th fastest for him. But what about Zorzo, the Spaniard? Can he snatch it away from Kokeni? Or can the Hungarian do any more to just eke out that advantage once again? through the final corner we go as Shontos shoots it to third. Zorzo, he goes second fastest, but still a tenth shy, and Kokeni's not improving. So I think for everybody here, Joseph, it was a missed opportunity.
Certainly looks like it. It certainly looks like this was an opportunity missed for pretty much every single one of these drivers, which means that Tamas Kokeni is going to be up at the very top of the field. And, well, that's unsurprising if you have a look at the results from earlier on in the qualifying session. But to see that the only driver really to improve to be competitive was Rens Thomason will be a very big surprise for them to see with, of course, Rens. I mean, he improved very well up there, but the fact that nobody else has joined him, nobody else has followed him, is a very interesting fact. And, well, we will be seeing what is going to happen to these drivers heading into race day. Of course, the lobby restart is going to settle things down a little bit, but we will be seeing, I'm sure, some fierce action out on the Las Vegas Strip. Tomasz Kokeni then up at the top, and Rens Thomason will be lining up alongside him. Diego's also in third, and Konrad Bohm, who is not Hungarian, but he is Polish, on the fourth spot of the field. Gabo Shontos and Gabriel Quintino, they will make up the third row of the grid in JST. Matthias van Erven, Ryan Bakker and Tom Roberts will round out the top 10. Then it's Modler, Galindo, Bison, Marquardt, Holmes, Hannon, Gabadi, Imtiaz, Cavero and Dowd to round out the field. And it's almost like I've done those readings out before because, well, that was almost didn't make it, but did in the end.
Yes, just about did. And there you can see what could have been. Now we have this lobby restart. And apparently, actually, Rens Thomason and Cameron Dowds made contact on the actual outlap to the starting, to, of course, the final runs. And that's why Dowds came into pit lane, because he got swiped by Thomason. And he didn't, and of course, Thomason is saying in the chat he didn't know he was there. So some drama there from Cameron Dowds, causing that early retirement in qualifying. And yeah, we are going to have a lobby restart now, where we could have just seen some rain. But while the drivers get everything turned around, while we get back to racing action, we will quickly head to a short break for of course, to be able to switch everything around and get back going green once again. Will Tamas Kokeni take that first race victory of the season? Will somebody else be able to stop the Hungarian? Find out in a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Las Vegas. As you can see, 6.120 kilometers or 3.803 miles and 17 turns make up this beautiful new, of course, racing facility to the F1 calendar. One of the latest additions to the F1 calendar, of course, debuting in 2023. 2 DRS zones, one heading up into turn 5, and then the other one all the way down the Las Vegas strip with detection zones at the first corner and coming out of turn 11. But the drivers are now just preparing for the race. We'll head back trackside, and as we can see, Joseph, that rain has been taken away from us.
Rain has gone away. It will come again another day, I'm sure. And, well, we are getting ready to go here in Las Vegas to kick off season 22. The lights are on. And the action's underway. That's going to be a good launch from Tamas Kokeni. Rens Thomason has been able to match him and will be alongside down to the first corner of this racetrack. Who's going to be able to come out on top in this battle, as there's huge skirmishes further back. Lots of ghosting. Kokeni has the inside line into 2, so he's able to take the position. Looking further back, JST and Matthias Van Erven are going to be side by side for 6th place. That might invite Rayan Bakar into the fight, or they might be going for Gabo Shontos, as there's a bit of a shunt up ahead. That's going to be Rens Thomason squeezed into the wall by Diego Zorzo. So already drama on the first lap here in season 22. Zorzo and Thomason having a coming together. Is there any damage on Thomason's car? Not quite, but that's a very shaky start to the Sauber's day.
It certainly is indeed, and that's dropped him down one place, of course, to the McLaren driver, as Van Erven and Estes getting very friendly indeed as well on this opening lap of the circuit. Drivers making moves everywhere they can on this opening tour as we now make our way into turn 11. That was Ryan Bacard now to the inside of Gabriel Quintino. He's actually been able to make that move stick. He went even deep into the corner, but is now ahead. Kokeni a second clear of Diego Zorzo. He's had a flying start, has the Hungarian, as Tomasin now gets that place back from the Spaniard as he now sees himself back up into that second place as we hit the brakes once more. There's a little jink out there. I think that was from Quintino once again behind Ryan Bakar. Let's bring up the information for these drivers. What tyres is everybody on? So it's medium tyres for that top 8. Bakar, Quintino, Galinda, Basler, Marquardt and Johanan on the hards alongside Dowds, Cavero and Imtiaz. And then we have Holmes, Gabadi and also Modler on those mediums. Talking about Holmes on those mediums, he's going to try put them to good use as he go around the outside of Johanan into that first corner. And it was disaster on that opening lap from Ryan Modler as he went round and is now missing his front wing.
Certainly is, and he's currently begging for a restart, so we may well get one of those. There's a lot of desync further back, which is why there was a lot of cars ghosting at the very start of this race. Joe Hannon's dropped another position to Cameron Dowds, who's decided to retire from the session. I think that may well be, indeed it is, that's the restart. That's a very quick reaction from Joe Hannon, quicker than I was. But yeah, that's going to be a restart, a lobby restart, and well, it's the second time that we've done that today. Just because of a little bit of lag issues this time. We'll see how many of those drivers are going to react to that on lap number 2. Glad it wasn't called out later. Ryan Modler has now retired and left, and hopefully that's going to spark a few more drivers to do the same. But lap 2 of 25 then, and that's going to be it for this first run. We're going to go again in just a few moments' time, and we will get our race, our 25 laps around Las Vegas at some point this evening.
Yes, we certainly shall indeed. As everybody will now retire, what the issue was there is we didn't get into an entirely new lobby. So that is why we're getting a full lobby restart now. It caused that little bit of a desync error. But yes, we get to go once again. Kokeni from Tomasin. And potentially now that might be a little bit misfortunate here for the Hungarian, Joseph, as the Hungarian won't be able to break that second potentially again, but we'll find out once more in a few moments' time as we go to our second lobby restart. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Las Vegas once more. We'll have our second attempt at a race start in a fresh new lobby, and I think we are also having ghosting on for this opening lap as well to, of course, stop that desync issue that we had in that last lobby. So, Joseph, potentially a little bit less chaos with drivers hitting into one another, but still, overtakes can be made. And for Rens Thomassen, he would not want a repeat of last time.
No, certainly wouldn't. That would not be. It wouldn't be the race restart that he would want, but we're going to get a race restart right now. Tamas Kokeni is going to lead off of the line. Rens Thomassen is not quite going to be close enough into the first corner. He's going to be alongside Diego Zorzo as they head through the first corner, as opposed to fighting with Tamas Kokeni. Zorzo still on the inside, as that's going to be Johannan, whose restart is absolutely awful. He's retired from the session already, and that's going to be a huge disappointment. Rens and Diego are still remaining side by side, as Conrad and Gabo Shontos are trying to fight for fourth place in the background. Zorzo and Rens Thomassen still a bit of wheel banging, still no love lost between the two drivers. The Kicksauber has the inside line and the track position, but the McLaren still keeps the wheel in and forces his way alongside, and now with the advantage against Thomassen. But the inside line out of the little stadium section, out of the first sector, benefits Rens Thomassen, and finally the Kicksauber is able to hold on to that P2 where he started the race, and he sets his sights on Kokeni, while Bohm sets his sights on Zorzo.
Yes, Kokeni not this time around, not able to break that DRS, and Zorzo actually tapped the wall there on the exit of turn 11, and this now puts it right into the hands of Conrad Bohm, who's going to look now to this outside line for the chicane if he can get this one done under braking. Of course, Thomassen will surely give his teammate the slipstream, which he does, as we now look to the outside line here with Bohm, but the inside for the second part of the chicane, but just backs out of it, knows it's not worth to get involved in an unnecessary lap 1 incident, as Rens Thomassen now goes round the outside of Scott Holmes. Will bring up the tyres once again. Bakar once again on those hards, the top 6 all on those medium compounder tyres, and then we have, of course, Van Erven, Roberts and Modler as well on the mediums. Everybody else on the hards, and Modler is trying to make his way past Gabriel Quintino here, as we now see them side by side into turn 4, and it's lovely stuff from the Ferrari driver, who moves himself up into that top 10. A much better start this time around without the desync for Modler and for Johannan. I think everybody readied up a little bit too quickly for him, and he wasn't able to get the setup on as Modler goes deep into 5, and that's just opened the door once again for Quintino.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate way that these races go, as Gabriel Quintino goes through, and Ryan Modler will try and get back into the DRS before they get to the zone, and it looks like he's done that with ease, as Tom Roberts was trying to go for a move on Matthias Van Erven, but wasn't able to pull it off, and so lost time. Quintino is now about 8 tenths back. Everybody's still in that DRS range, and Conrad Bohm very close to the back of Diego Zorzo as they head out to the back straight, where they will have DRS for the first time in this Grand Prix, and this is going to be the deciding area, really, of this race, because all the drivers will have set themselves up. They will be going around 330 kilometers per hour at the very end of this straight, if not higher, and they're just going to be fighting it out at those high speeds with that DRS at the moment. They remain in formation. Bohm doesn't quite have the straight line speed to catch up to Zorzo. Same with Shontos on Bohm. But the Alpine was looking a bit more threatening on the back of the Kicksauber than the Kicksauber was on the McLaren. We're going to end lap number 3 with Tamas Kokeni in the lead of the race. Rens Thomassen half a second back. And Tamas, of course, fastest lap of this race on a set of those medium compounder tyres. Ryan Bakker, the highest hard runner, will be hoping to stay up there, and Gabriel Quintino still had a gap for that 10th place that he went through on Ryan Modler. He's going to hold on to that as much as he possibly can, as Abe Gabadi and Scott Holmes are going to go at it for P16. Scott Holmes is going to be on the back of Gabadi as they head down to the next braking zone. The first burst of DRS on this circuit, a bit underrated, but still allows you to pull alongside 99% of the time. But Gabadi gives Scott Holmes a right old squeeze into the wall, and the Haas forced to back out.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Scott Holmes, unfortunately losing that battle, just like now his favourite football club Wolves keep losing their squabbles as well. But we're on lap 3 of 25. So far at the top of the field, it is still Tamas Kokeni leading the way. He didn't break the 1 second this time around, but he still has got a comfortable margin over Renz Tomasson behind. Actually, Ryan Bakar is looking all over the back of JSD for a potential position. The same with Conrad Bohm as well, as we now make our way down that Las Vegas strip once more. Are we going to see any moves be made in this top 6 as we see Bakar get closer and closer, but he won't be close enough as we just slam on the brakes into that chicane, and he's still going to have to sit behind, but he's got a very racy Matthias van Herven all over the back of him as we see this front gaggle of cars all just so closely matched. You could just see them all bunching up down the straights, potentially just having to lift off ever so slightly to not go into the back of one another, and it is a full-on DRS train from top to bottom as Ryan Modler now sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. And the biggest gap we actually have in this midfield is between Basner and Modler being 8 tenths a second. Everybody else about 2 tenths adrift for one another.
Yeah, at the moment, they are sort of just settling into this race and just sort of remaining in where they are. The first sector will sort of be a waiting game for that second sector and for that DRS. I think that's going to be the prime overtaking opportunity. The first DRS zone, I said it was underrated, and well, Scott Holmes tried to use it to his advantage to get through on Ava Gabadi, which didn't quite work. Lap 4 of 25, and we will be going down to that DRS straight in just a couple of moments' time. Sector 2 is you kind of ignore it, really, because you haven't got any DRS. DRS is so crucial around this circuit. It's a pivotal part of the driver's race, and they'll be going down to pick it up down this back straight. It, of course, was shortened because of how unbelievably long it was the first year they had it out, and it's about halfway down the straight where they open up that DRS and are able to gain that slipstream advantage, and Ryan Modler trying to gain it on Gabriel Quintino. This is for 10th place. He did look to the outside, but Gabriel shut the door pretty much as soon as it opened, and it's all firm heading into lap 5.
Yep, it certainly is indeed. Of course, these DRS trains, without the very minimal slipstream in this game as well, makes it so difficult to go for those overtakes because you can't really gather that top speed over your opponent in front. The only driver that could potentially be able to do that is going to be, of course, Renz Tomasson on Tamas Kokeni, but he just can't seem to get close enough for now, potentially just managing his battery and tyres at this stage of the race. But it's lovely to see this real splitting strategy, this half and half through the field with hards versus those mediums. What strategy will come out on top? That is the big question. Will those hards, which of course will be going longer on that second stint, but will they be able to build enough of a gap that the medium tyres won't be able to come back with those drivers in those second stint? Or will those mediums just reign supreme near the end of the race? They are the real questions that will be answered in a matter of laps times. Of course, I'm expecting these medium runners here, Joseph, in around potentially lap 10 to 12. The hard runners, I would say, lap 15 to 16. So a good 5-lap buffer potentially between the two pit windows, which can potentially cause some brilliant racing near the end.
Certainly could. I mean, it's been the case on this game a lot of times that the racing really comes alive the last 5 laps or so. So the end of the race is certainly going to be one to watch. You're going to want to stick around for that, even if the racing is sort of like following a DRS train at this point in time. But I promise you the action will start to happen very, very shortly. As well, they will start to come into the pit lane. They will start to make their switches. And, of course, Las Vegas is a very, very good circuit for strategy battles and for tyre degradation. The mediums don't last altogether too long around here. It's basically the next lap will be the pit window opening if you're stupid. The lap after is where the pit window will really open, and we'll be seeing a lot of those medium runners come into the pit lane. They've not been able to eke out the advantage they would have wanted having been on the medium tyres, but what they have managed to do is hold station, and they're going to hope that that undercut is what's going to gain the positions. In fact, the only driver really, or the only drivers really to lose out have been Gabriel Quintino and Scott Holmes. They've dropped 4 and 3 places respectively. The only other driver to lose positions has been Carlos Galindo, who's only dropped 1. So that's an interesting start to the race for all of those drivers, but they're all in the hards, and Gabriel Quintino especially, he was right up in the thick of that medium battle, so it's unsurprising that he dropped back. So it's very much all stations as Ryan Bakar gets past JST, makes advantage of the Ferrari's poor exit out of the corner, and that's going to really throw him on the back foot down towards the DRS zone, because he got a poor exit out of the corner. That means that Matthias van Erven, Tom Roberts even, might want to go through, but JST uses all he can to try and fight back with Ryan Bakar, and in the end, holds station.
He certainly does, but that's now dropped them out of DRS of Gabor Shontos. That all sort of bottlenecked at turn 11 as Van Erven going for a move on Bakar, which then made Bakar take a bit more of an inside line, and then Esti just completely overshot the corner in defence potentially from the Haas driver behind, and now Bakar's made that move back up into 6th place down at turn 1. But as we head into this next DRS zone, the Haas driver certainly has lost that DRS, and he's going to be bleeding time now down this next straight. But luckily, with everyone congesting up into turn 4, it does change things slightly as we see Ryan Modler try once again to get past Gabriel Quintino. But the hard runner still holding firm, just not able to break down that Mercedes barrier is Modler so far to eke himself into the points. Of course, Modler finished 2nd last season in the championship behind a dominant Luca Rapassa. Was it just right driver, just a wrong season for Modler? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, a long championship ahead. But for Ryan, he's still trying to hunt down Quintino at the front of the field. Everything stays the same, but that battle with Bakar has been able to bring that gap down now to Shontos to just over a second. I don't know if the Haas driver's got any DRS.
Yeah, not 100% sure. We'll be seeing as they head down. He does not have that. So we'll be seeing what he's going to be able to do in defence of JST. It's going to be that he holds position ahead of the Ferrari for now. But is that going to be the moment where this split breaks and the top 5 are able to take full advantage of having that gap? That's why I think all the top 5 are going to be able to extend their stint, and they're going to choose to extend their stint because they don't want to get caught up in any sort of traffic. So even if they might lose time initially, it's going to really benefit them. Ryan Bakar having some internet issues as well, which might be the reason that JST isn't going for the move at this point in time. The top 5 in a great position at the moment, but Rens Thomason and Conrad Bohm are going to have to think about it a lot because they are teammates. When they pit, they will be pitting into the same box, so they're going to have to come in on different laps.
Yeah, they certainly will. Will it be the driver in 4th just coming in that lap earlier than Thomason, or does Thomason have that favourability to go potentially that one bit earlier and just really hamper, of course, Conrad Bohm's race as we see Scott Holmes get past Alexi Cavero as he's all over the back of Abe Gabadi once again. That V-Carbon Haas seeming inseparable at the moment in this Grand Prix. Someone we haven't talked about much is Cameron Dowds. He's currently sitting in 19th place, down in last of all the drivers so far. He had a poor start and a poor qualifying. Just hasn't really been able to find a rhythm so far in this race to push himself further forward, but could be conserving just for the end of his stint. And this time around, Joseph, Ryan Bakar has been able to find that DRS, and still just going to drop a little bit out of it by the time he reached the chicane. But with everyone congesting once more, he'll surely see himself back within it, certainly by the time we reach turn 1.
Yeah, he is, and he's 8/10 back now, so he will be able to get the opportunity. As now we will be seeing our first drivers into the pit lane on lap number 8 of this race. We'll be seeing Conrad Bohm and Gabo Shontos, as well as JST, making their switches down the inside into the first corner. That's a Mercedes of Quintino, who's been able to make his way through on Tom Roberts. And this is really where the hard runners are able to stretch their legs. And I think we'll be seeing the likes of Beisner and Galindo making moves very quickly.
Yes, it certainly is where we might see those moves be made, those hard sides. The pendulum has swung into their favour. And now, this is really crunch time. If you want to start to make that track position up and potentially lose yourself a little bit less time by going this little bit longer on those hards, by just making a few moves and getting that key track position by the time those medium runners come into pit lane. And of course, we now see Lucas Beisner all over the back of Ryan Modler. Of course, so far we've seen Bohm, Shontos and Esti all dive it into pit lane. And will the rest of the front of the field follow? The likes of Kokeni, Thomason and Zorzo. Bohm got that one lap advantage that we said about potentially he could get from being that second driver in the Kick Sauber queue. Surprised Tomasson didn't try go for an undercut on Kokeni. And talking about Tomasson, he's getting closer to Kokeni. He's potentially looking for the move to the outside line. He is, but he's just not able to get that move done. And that could be pivotal now, as we're going to see both of them dive into pit lane. We are.
Yeah, into the pit lane then on lap number 9, Kokeni and Renz Thomason come. And Diego Zorzo is going to continue on. He's going to overcut in this race. Where are Kokeni and Thomason going to come out in relation to those that they were fighting earlier on? It's going to be behind most likely, but we will wait and see as around the final corner. They're going to come in a few moments' time. Thomason and Conrad Bohm have played this very well as teammates in the same car. And he's going to be held up a little bit, I think, is Renz Thomason by Tamash Kokeni coming out of the pit lane. Where are they going to all stack up then? It looks like Tamash has nailed this one. And the fact that Renz Thomason has had to be held up behind him has cost him track position, as they would have been 1-2, but now they're 1-3.
Yeah, that's crucial for Kokeni and Tomasson. As actually, here comes Conrad Bohm to the outside line through turn 4. Potentially knows it is also crucial to get this move done on the Mercedes driver, just to get that track position over him and just put him into the path of his teammate Tomasson as we make our way through the chicane once more. And now for Conrad Bohm. He's now the leader of the kick salvers. He did get that undercut. Surprise, Jontos didn't get that undercut onto Masson either, but it's just a way that pit lane spits you out at turn 1. It just makes it easier for you to hang on to that position. Diego Zorzo and also Tom Roberts will surely be the next drivers into pit lane here on lap 10, as actually Quintino is able to get past on Matthias van Erven. He will also be looking to come into the pits as well. But because of all these pit stops as well here, Joseph, it has split Bakar from the rest of the field behind, and that could be a very pivotal moment in this race. And especially with Bakar being the leader of the drivers going to switch to the mediums, it's exactly what he needs, is that buffer behind.
Yeah, very, very good time for them, as they are actually going to momentarily go 3 wide. Are the battle for the leaders of the race down into the final corner, and this battle will remain on. Shontos against Kokeni. It is the two actual Hungarians scrapping it out, and it is going to be Shontos who wins out on this occasion, and he chases down the not Hungarian, the Polish driver of Conrad Bohm in the provisional lead of this race. But we will see where all of these drivers are able to go, as Conrad is now 6.7 off of the back of Cameron Dowds, and they are very much closing that gap. Diego's also 2-second advantage over Rayan Bakar. Rayan, 2-second advantage over Gabriel Quintino. Watch that gap closely, because that is the difference between the mediums and the hard compound tyres.
It certainly is indeed. And for Rayan Bakar, Diego's also kept himself out that little bit longer, so he's not got entirely clean air in front of that Hasser. Potentially still could be under a little bit of a dirty air effect with the car sliding around. But of course, with now Bowman Shontos ahead of Kokeni, that is very crucial actually in terms of the race leader picture, as Tomasson is now all over the back of Tamash Kokeni. So we'll see if a move will be made from the kick Sauber, or are there going to be any moves within this quartet of cars. JSD is just a little bit of a bystander at the moment, just sitting back as things stand. Zorzo is into pit lane, I think. No, he's staying out even longer on these medium tyres. He's getting a real big tyre deficit here, is also to those drivers of the likes of Bohm, Shontos and Kokeni. He's trying to at least build up, I would say, a 3-lap buffer to all of them, as Imtiaz is actually going for a move on Ave Gabadi for that 9th place, and he's able to get the move done quite nicely through turn 4, but there could still be a fight back from the V-carb up into the 5th corner, but no, just having to sit behind for now. But for Zorzo, Van Erven and Roberts, I think they're really just preying on the fact the tyre delta saves them at the end of this race.
Basically, that's the idea, I think, for them. And we know what Diego Zorzo's like. He loves an overtake, and he's going to try and make an overtake here, most likely at some point. It is about halfway through this race, so I'd imagine we'll be seeing all 3 medium runners into the pit on this lap. And yeah, we'll see what they get the chance to do. Diego Zorzo leads Bakar, leads Quintino, and the gap between Bakar and Zorzo has come down by 0.4 of a second. The gap between Quintino and Zorzo has come down by another 0.6 of a second. So it's an entire second that Gabriel Quintino has been able to close in on Diego Zorzo. So it's very much the hard compound tyres' time to shine. And the Mercedes is looking in a very, very strong position at the moment, as is Bakar, as that's going to be Lucas Beisner through on Tom Roberts. And I said that we'll be seeing those medium, those hards even, proven coming into fruition over the next few laps. That's exactly what they'll get.
Yes, it certainly is indeed. As are we going to see Zorzo in this time around? Yes, we are, and surely the rest of those medium runners are going to follow. No, we are not. Matthias van Erven will stay out, but Roberts does come in. So van Erven staying out that 1 lap extra, and a big kick out of the rear end through turns 1 and 2. Just showing how difficult that traction really is for the Williams driver on those really worn 12-lap-old medium compounded tyres. Zorzo, who was once 3rd place in this race, has now dropped down to 18th, and that is going to put him down in 7th overall after the pit stops from those hard runners in front. But he is all over the back of Ryan Wadler, who has found a 2nd on his teammates of JST. So that congestion through that middle sector here, Joseph, not helping these front runners, because it's allowing the drivers behind, like your Ryan Modlers, and now will help Zorzo and Roberts just eke that gap down more and more, because they're just able to carry so much more speed.
They certainly are. It's a lot of speed they're carrying down that straight as well. It's a very, very fast circuit around the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, which we discovered the other day is actually called the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. Matthias van Erven, I think, has been trying to hold with these hard runners for as long as he can with the DRS, but he's lost it now. So surely the Williams will be diving into the pit lane very, very shortly, as further down, Abe Gabadi makes his way through on Race Imtiaz, and this is the split between the drivers with DRS and the drivers without. This is why DRS is so crucial. That's why a lot of them pitted at the same time, so they can maintain it. It is so important in this race, but if you lose it, you're going to lose seconds per lap, which could be so, so vital. As now Matthias van Erven is in.
It certainly is, and it's all kicking off at the back here. Conrad Bowman, Kokeni side by side with 3 wide with the 2 kick Saubers and the Mercedes, and Kokeni sees himself through on the outside. He says, thank you very much, I'll get that move done, and the Hungarian moves himself up into 11th as the 2 kick Saubers now duel over that 3rd place in this train. Jontos was able to get these moves done on Conrad Bowman, and then Kokeni also tried that move, as we still see him side by side up into turn 5. Who's going to come out on top? It is going to be Tomasson surely on that inside line to get the move done, but it's a good old switcheroo from Conrad Bowman. He's squeezed so aggressively from his teammates. Of course, the #1 rule in racing, don't hit your teammate. It's hard, but it was fair racing, and brilliant racing respect from both Bohm and Tomasson to make that racing sequence pull off. And that was absolutely amazing between the 2 kick Saubers and Kokeni as well. And the Hungarian now sees his fellow Hungarian driver up in front of him with Gabor Shontos, but I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of these drivers kick off once again.
Yeah, very much so. It's looking very, very spicy down at the back, and that's what you expect out of WOR PC Tier 2, one of the top tiers in the world, and of course we'll be seeing that once again. I'm sure throughout the rest of the season, lots and lots of action on the circuit over what appear to be not very important positions, but of course at the end of the race they will get very important. JST did have a look at Conrad Bohm's rear view mirror, but decided not to go for it in the end, as our first hard runner and our second hard runner, Rayan Bakar and Cameron Dowds, or not Cameron Dowds, in fact, he was shuffled around. It's Ray Simtiaz into the pit lane, Ev Gabadi and Scott Holmes as well, as down to the inside JST goes. He wants to get through on Conrad Bohm nice and quickly. Cameron Dowds is alongside Tamash Kokeni. They have now caught the pack. It's about to get very spicy here in Tier 2. And Kokeni and Thomason are through on Dowds. Thomason now trying to take the opportunity to go through himself on the outside line of the Mercedes. Can he pull it off? Not quite yet, but he is looking very threatening.
He certainly is indeed, and all his squabbling's allowing Shontos to just shoot off the road that little bit more, and Dowds to the inside now to Masson. He's still fighting for every position, even though he's not made a pit stop yet. Of course, he's got every right to do so. But for Cameron Dowds, that could have been absolute tears for Renz Tomasson, as potentially stops a really good overtaking opportunity for the kick Sauber, as we can actually see as we look behind Dowds. The likes of Esti, Bohm now to the outside of JST. He's going to be just squeezed ever so slightly into the wall. But the Kick Sauber still able to hold on to his front wing, and of course SD will now get that DRS of Cameron Dowds, and the V-car will surely just sink backwards and backwards down this Las Vegas strip, as you also see Zorzo now joining the action too, as we make our way up into the chicane once more. Bohm will have so much more braking performance compared to the Kick Sauber, and he does see himself through under braking, and Conrad Bohm is now up into 9th place. Tomasson not close enough for a move. I think that's Quintino and Galindo into pit lane. Yes, it certainly is. Bakar is 4.1 seconds off this train that's squabbling for the race leaders. Modler now sees himself through on Cameron Downs. And it's side by side between Bohm and Zorzo. Is the McLaren going to get the move to the inside? Yes, he is. Brilliant stuff from Zorzo, using the slipstream in his battery to get by, and that tyre delta too, as it really is all kicking off here at the fullest battle for the race lead.
Certainly is huge fights at this point in time, and it's getting very spicy as that's into the wall for Jens Thomason. He's locked up into the braking zone, and that is the Kick Sauber out of the fight for that race victory. That is absolutely huge, and that has taken a huge chunk off his front wing. An absolutely pivotal moment. Jens Thomason has cracked under the pressure, and that's going to be the Kick Sauber out of contention. And surely, out of this race, he's going to surely make the decision to come into the pit lane. That narrows our fight down to just the 5 drivers, 6 drivers even. Shontos, Kokeni, JST, Zorzo, Bohm and Modler will be fighting it out for the race victory. And Rayan Bakar on those mediums is not too far back.
He certainly is not indeed. He's made some absolutely massive inroads over the course of the last couple of laps. And here comes Zorzo on SD, and he gets that move done now to put himself third in this train. Basner has been able to keep out a little bit longer on those hards. He'll be surely coming in at the end of this lap. Yes, he will. You can just see on the mini-map there, he is coming in to pit lane. So we do now have Shontos leading the way here in Las Vegas, as we actually see as well Modler go for that move on Conrad Bohm. That's two cars in 2 laps that have got past Conrad Bohm through the final corner and into turn 1. But this is the man we need to look out for. Rayan Bakar, who's just made his move around the outside of Cameron Dowds through turn 4. And he's now got a clear road to that pack in front of him. The hunt is on Tomasson after what was a very impressive display up until that moment. Unfortunately, he's out of this race. And we now have the hunt for Rayan Bakar. Is he going to be able to make his way up to the front of the field in what would be a very impressive victory, in his first victory in PC Tier 2? But the question is, are the drivers going to be able to hold on?
Yeah, we're certainly going to hope so. We'll be seeing what they do, as that's going to be yellow flags. Jens Thomason is out of the race, but he will despawn by the time that all these drivers head around to the first corner. Gabo Shontos leads the way, and Tamas Kokeni and Diego's also follow him through. Kokeni's tyres are 1 lap younger than Gabo Shontos's, and Diego's also has an absolutely massive 4-lap advantage over Shontos. So the McLaren at the moment is in prime position to take this race victory, I would imagine, as Conrad Bohm looks like he's trying to break, or looking like he's about to break off of the back of this pack. Would be disappointing for the Kick Sauber, as, well, it looks like Cameron Dowds is desperately trying to hold out for a safety car, but he is getting absolutely swarmed at the moment. He's been punted into the wall by Gabriel Quintino as he's desperate to get through. There's lots and lots of scraps going on, lots of front wing end plates going off. Dowds has been forced into pit lane. He's decided to go on, and I hope that this is going to be a completely fair fight as they continue on into the first corner. That's going to be Alexi Cavero retiring from the race in the pit lane. I think he got damaged from that fight. It's 4 wide heading through turn 2, and it's going to be the case that Cameron Dowds is going to be squeezed all the way to the back of the field. He's only defending from Scott Holmes, but there's only so much defending you can do before you get squeezed out to the back. So for Cameron Dowds, that moment of madness has very much cost him his race, if his strategy didn't already.
Yeah, it certainly has indeed. And that 4 wide, how they've all come out of that unscathed, I do not know. But fair play to the drivers there. And actually, Cavero got forced into the pit lane at that moment. He tried going to the inside of Cameron Dowds, and he just squeezed him over and over until the Red Bull went straight into the pits. And he had nowhere to go but to commit to the pit lane. Unfortunately, had to retire the car in the process, because he wouldn't have made up that time, especially with picking up a 10-second time penalty in the process. Let's have a look at the progress of Ryan Bakar. He has now got 1.2 seconds separating him and Conrad Bohm, as Gabor Shontos has now just been overtaken by Diego Zorzo, who of course finished third last time out. So the drivers who finished third and second in the championship standings in this train, squabbling for positions, that's Ryan Modler and Diego Zorzo. But they still need to look out for Ryan Bakar behind. Is there any moves to be made further back, potentially from Joel Marquardt? But no, he's not close enough. But of course, it's not only Bakar we have to watch out for here, Joseph. It's the rest of those medium runners too, because they're about to swallow up both Tom Roberts and Matthias van Erven.
They certainly are. And, well, it looks like there's going to be a little bit more scrapping in that mid-pack. So they are not having any time to rest as they continue on. Ave Gabadi trying to stay in the DRS of Gabriel Quintino, but the hard-charging Mercedes is still fighting for it and wants to get through on Tom Roberts very soon, as there's a 2.7-second gap between Matthias van Erven and Ryan Bakar. Ryan himself, who is trying to get DRS on Conrad Bohm. Conrad has been able to recover himself into a decent amount of slipstream on Ryan Modler, as Joel Marquardt is scrapping it out with Race Imtiaz. It's looking like a very fierce fight for the final few points positions, and it's very much not over unless Ave Gabadi is going to stay out of that DRS range, and it looks like he may well do. So it turns from the fight for the points to the fight for glory, although Gabriel Quintino with that 3 second, that's opened up the gap for all of those drivers fighting behind to really try and take their opportunity. As further up, Tamas Kokeni, is he going to get close enough to the back of Shontos? Yes, he is, but he's going to lift and coast. So maybe a little bit of fuel saving for the Hungarian on the back of the Alpine.
Yes, it certainly is, potentially, as Joel Marquardt has just been overtaken by both Imtiaz and Scott Holmes, and Holmes has made it past a pair of them as they make it down into that chicane. There's action everywhere you look here in Las Vegas. And are we going to see any more moves down into turn one? Potentially Quintino onto Tom Roberts. You can just see the extra purchase, the extra grip he has under braking. But he's just not close enough to get that move done once again, as Ryan Bakar is now within DRS of Conrad Bohm. But crucially as well, Diego Zorzo has broken that DRS to Gabor Shontos in second. And the Spaniard looking ever more likely to take the first race victory of the season, to take the championship lead along with it. As we now make our way through turn 8 with Shontos. It's all going to be about how these next few laps play out, especially for Ryan Bakar. Zorzo, who went for that overcut, it's worked perfectly into his hands with a 4-lap tire delta to, of course, Shontos behind. And the rest of the field is now having to play catch up, and potentially it's just going to be a squabble for second place now.
Yeah, pretty much. Diego Zorzo has played this one perfectly, extending that first stint, going for that overcut, waiting for everybody else to fight, and that's exactly what they've done. So Diego Zorzo looks like he might be going on to take his first victory of the season and take the championship lead. But of course, mistakes can happen, although Zorzo's generally, his mistakes are drawn out by fighting with other people. So now he's just got a sprint to the end for the final 5 laps of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Gabor Shontos is under pressure from Tamas Kokeni, but Kokeni still not going close enough. I think it may well have been more of a defence on JST than an attack on Gabor Shontos, and Ryan Modler trying to chase through as well. That's going to be Race Imtiaz retiring from his first race of the season. That's disappointing to see 4 drivers retiring in the pit lane, all for different reasons. Kokeni still not close enough to Shontos. JST still not close enough to Kokeni. And, well, Conrad Bohm now trying to fight with Ryan Modler. He's not quite close enough. He's got Ryan Bakar on his back, though. And I think the Haas needs to make the most of those mediums for the next 2 laps, as that's a huge send from Bohm. And Ryan Modler's been squeezed out. That opens the door for Bakar. He's going to send it to the inside. Can he get on the throttle quickly enough? Yes, he can. He's through on on Ryan Modler without much problems. But that's a safety car out on the circuit for Tom Roberts. And is that going to be for Cameron Dowds as well? No, it looks like it might just be for Tom Roberts, who's got no front wing. That's going to throw something into the works in terms of Diego Zorzo's race.
It certainly is, and now we got some late drama heading into this Grand Prix. And what happened there with Tom Roberts, I think he was defending quite aggressively from, I want to say, Quintino heading into turn 5. and he went straight on. We saw him just pulling back onto the circuit, but it was a very late safety car call by that point. So potentially Dowds had gone straight on into the wall as well. It doesn't seem so, though, as we're going to check his front wing quickly. No, he is missing an in-plate, so potentially both of them causing that front wing damage. Then, of course, meaning we bring this safety car out for that debris on the road, and everyone, except for potentially some drivers at the back, surely got to come into pit lane. And I did say everyone, but somebody at the back. Carlos Galindo has decided to stay out. Has anybody else decided to do the same? Yes, Lucas Baisner and Scott Holmes have all decided to stay out on the road. This is going to be a very spicy final few laps of this Grand Prix. 4 on the mediums, the rest of the field on the softs. And by the time we get going, I think we'll have 2 racing laps to go.
Yeah, it makes sense for those drivers up the top to stay out on those mediums. That's what I would have done if I was at the back. I might have even done it if I was one of the likes of Zorzo, but I think those on the mediums, this makes perfect sense. For the likes of Galindo and Gabaddi, they're going to have Beissner and Holmes as their rear gunners, and they're just going to allow them to be really used as defensive blocks. I've done this once before. I engineered a race where the safety car came out at an awful time. We had a 10-second penalty, didn't want to serve it. We stayed out. We won the race because there was 2 cars that also stayed out in behind us. And in today's race, it looks like Carlos Galindo and Abe Gabaddi. I think Galindo's going to win this race from here because there's only going to be 2 racing laps, one with DRS. There's going to be some carnage. Scott Holmes and Lucas Beissner are going to fight for their lives. I think Galindo and Abe Gabaddi have at least a podium on their hands.
I think they certainly do as well. This is all going to be about how these drivers now navigate Holmes, Baisner, Gabaddi and Galindo. There could be some absolute fireworks over the course of those final 2 laps of this race. The order for the drivers on the softs is Zorzo, Shontos, Kokeni, Esti, Bone, Bakar, and I think Tomasin might be slightly kicking himself here. Same with Imtiaz and Cavero as well here, Joseph, because of course they probably weren't expecting a late safety car, but you've always got to take your chances. You've always got to stick in it because you never know what might happen in one of these races, and that's what's happened with Dowds. He stayed out all the way praying for a late safety car. He's got his wish, but being down in 16th, can he capitalise on that carnage? You've always got to keep in it. You cannot give up. For the drivers that did, I think potentially, especially Tomasin, he might be kicking himself ever so slightly.
Yeah, and the likes of Reis Imtiaz, Alexi Cavero, why did they retire on reflection? They're going to feel as though they missed out on an opportunity to do something very good here today. It will be 2 racing laps that we will be getting because, of course, the game likes to force 2. It doesn't like 1 lap, so the safety car will be in on this occasion. Carlos Galindo will lead us to the green flag, and Abe Gabaddi will be chasing him through. I don't think there'll be too much fighting from the McLaren or the V-Carb because they just want to hold that advantage ahead of the rest of the field. I think we're going to get some fireworks in the last few laps, and if I had my bold prediction, I think Diego Zorzo is not going to finish this race, despite the pace that he's had so far, despite the amazing overtakes that he's made on some occasions. Sometimes he can get a little bit aggressive at certain points, so I'm not sure whether the McLaren is going to be patient enough to make his way through the top 4. If he doesn't retire, somebody will. There will be somebody who goes too aggressively on the safety car restart. I've made my pick that it's Zorzo, but it may well be somebody else. I may well be reading him wrong. Maybe Rayan Bakar's internet issues from earlier on will come back to bite him. I have no idea, but we've got 2 laps to find out.
Yes, we certainly do indeed. Oh, and this is what it all boils down to. I have no idea who's going to win this one, but if you're Carlos Galindo, you want to get this one out of the way and you want to get gone early. And that's what he's tried to do, but of course the safety car will now back everybody up. He's really legged it, just for it all to congest behind. Galindo, you are the Infactu safety car. You are the new Bernd Mailander. How good is this restart going to be? Surely he's going to leave it of course, let the safety car go and make it launch oh so early compared to the rest of the field behind, as he's actually got front wing damage as well, does Galindo. So that makes this challenge 10 times harder. So when does the McLaren decide to go? He's weaving to generate as much tyre temperature as possible, as we see now making our way up to the start-finish line. Is he just going to bring this one to a crawl all the way to that first corner? But no, we go now. We are back racing. We go green once again here in Las Vegas. And look at that from Diego Zorzo. He's got a brilliant launch compared to Scott Holmes. And round the outside goes the McLaren to make his way up into fourth. Here he comes now on Basner to the inside for third. He's carving his way through those two drivers behind. Next on his list is Gabatti and Galindo. And I do not see these two drivers putting up enough of a fight to keep that McLaren behind, as it's a dream getaway from the Spaniards.
It's an absolutely unbelievable getaway from Carlos Galindo, who's eked out a 5/10 gap over Abe Gabatti. Diego Zorzo has found his way past Beisner and Holmes, who are dropping through the field at a rate of knots, and now he's found his way past Abe Gabatti. This may well be a case where Carlos Galindo has to settle for second, and at the moment Diego Zorzo is chasing him down 4/10 back as they head out to the second DRS zone on the circuit, and he's not quite going to be close enough on this occasion as Gabo Santos gets through on Gabatti. It's been a very weak defence from those on the mediums. Maybe those tyres are more off than we could imagine, and now Zorzo has free rein to chase Carlos Galindo down the back straight. He's 2/10 behind. That is going to be such an easy overtake on the back of Galindo, but I feel as though the two McLaren teammates are going to come to blows, or Diego Zorzo is going to come through for a magnificent win. He's through at the moment. Is Galindo going to fight back into the braking zone? No, he's not. He knows that he gets DRS if he's able to stay inside it. The final lap is about to get underway, and it's the McLaren 1-2. Gabo Santos on the back of Galindo. With that front wing damage, the Spaniard has really struggled to keep that momentum going, but it's going to be 3 wide into the first corner. Santos going to chase Zorzo, going to chase Galindo, and it's now Zorzo who holds that position. Galindo's fighting this one so very hard, but it looks like Santos is going to have the edge. Indeed he is, and the Alpine moves up to second place. Kokeni tries to move up to third. Can he chase Galindo? He's not quite close enough. Tom Roberts has decided to call his race to a close, but this one in the final two sectors is going to get very spicy. Zorzo and Santos have free rein to fight here. Galindo looks like he's going to try and hold back Kokeni, and Beisner and Abe Gabatti are having a fight all to themselves, which is going to stop Bohm and JST, but not if Conrad Bohm has anything to say about it. He makes his way through, and Scott Holmes has been squeezed out and drops down to 13th.
He certainly does indeed. We're looking at this battle here quickly between these drivers in that mid-pack for the softs. Galindo, he's going to recover to fourth, I think, here. Same with Basler to fifth. But, sorry, no, not Basler to fifth, of course, Bohm to the inside. But let's now move to that front of the field. It's Santos in prime position to now attack Diego Zorzo. 2/10 is that margin. He'll have DRS in a matter of moments. And surely we'll see the Alpine breeze by on the McLaren. He opens up that DRS. He looks to the inside line. He's getting squeezed by Diego Zorzo so aggressively as we now slam the brakes into the chicane. But Santos goes deep. He holds up Zorzo ever so slightly. It's all about this run now, down to the start-finish line. Who will cash in early this season? Who will take that first race victory? It's looking like the Hungarian. It is the Hungarian. Santos wins a chaotic Las Vegas Grand Prix from Diego Zorzo. Then your poleman Kokeni, who ends up in third. But a brilliant performance in the end for Gabo Santos. He timed that run to pure perfection, went deep, was able to just park his car beautifully through the chicane, and the Hungarian cashes in his chips early. He takes the championship lead and wins the first round of the season.
Yes, that is an absolutely unbelievable end to the race. A win by 0.088 of a second ahead of the McLaren. And Diego Zorzo will feel as though he's missed out there. Gabo Santos will feel as though he's gotten very lucky under the lights in Las Vegas, which is, of course, the location where you will get lucky. Tamás Kokeni makes it an all-Hungarian 1-3, and Carlos Galindo just about misses out on the podium, but fourth place is very, very well defended. Conrad Bohm picks up fifth in the end, and JST and Lucas Beisner are in sixth and seventh, with Matthias van Erven, Joel Marquardt and Abe Gabatti rounding out the top 10. Cameron Dowds in 11th, Scott Holmes in 12th, Gabriel Contino demoted with the penalties to 13th spot, and then Ryan Modler, Ryan Bakker and Tom Roberts, the final classified drivers, with Imtiaz, Cavero, Thomason and Joe Hannon, the final drivers in total. But that was a great way to kick off season 22.
It certainly was a final lap fiasco as we head back over to mine and Joseph's beautiful faces. But yeah, it was an absolute chaotic and just amazing Grand Prix to start with. It feels like Las Vegas, especially on this game, always seems to deliver. And yeah, what a drive that was from both. So, oh, 1 second there. My OBS decided to just glitch out ever so slightly there. But yeah, what a performance that was from both Zorzo and Shontos. I feel Zorzo will feel quite hard done by with the fact he lost that one. But of course for Shontos as well, he also played that race really beautifully on his strategy front, and I think both of them at certain stages of the race deserved the victory. And yeah, it was just Shontos who timed that to perfection and was able to get that race win.
Certainly was very good drive from Gabo Shontos, from Diego Zorzo. Very well deserved, I feel, from the both of them. Carlos Galindo as well made that gamble. I said he should, and he did. But the defences from the Thomas Enger drivers, the Beisner and Scott Holmes, were not quite as strong as I thought they were going to be, which was, of course, disappointing. And Ave Gabadi getting caught up in a fight as well. So it was potentially a gamble that wasn't worth making. But Carlos Galindo, in the end, he made it work.
He did. He certainly made that work. I think if he did come into the pit lane, of course, he would have got held up by his teammate coming in with Zorzo, so he would have dropped to the back of the field. So if I was Galindo, I would feel very, very pleased with a 4th place finish. That is certainly how I'd want to start the season. The gamble worked. I think, if anything, he was hoping for a podium at a potential high, but keeping a 4th or even a top 5 finish, I think, was the main objective from that strategy, and it worked out beautifully for him. And I think as well, Beisner, of course, defending on that final lap from Conrad Bohm, Esti, that chaos through that middle sector did help ever so slightly. But you got to be there. You got to take your chances. And that's exactly what Galindo did, and that's a brilliant way for him to start his season as well, especially when making that jump up to from tier 3 to 2.
Yeah, certainly so. I think the drivers that made the step up really impressed today, or a few of them at the very least, and be interesting to see how this season goes. Of course, that we're not going to get any interviews. Unlikely that we'll get any interviews at any point this season. Or I say we. Of course, Max will be taking you through the whole season, hopefully, alongside Corey. So it's been very good to have a one-off appearance in here, and yeah, it's been good fun. And I think that, or I know that the racing didn't disappoint at all.
Oh no, it certainly did not. It did not disappoint at any aspect. Thank you as well, Joseph, for joining me in the commentary box this evening. I know it was very last minute, but thank you for hopping in. But I don't, as Joseph just mentioned, no, we are going to get an interview. We are going to get one from Diego Zorzo, so we'll just wait for him to hop into the chat, and he has now just hopped into the waiting room. So let's head over to the interview screen and bring in the man who finished second in that race, Diego Zorzo. Hello, Diego. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Hello.
Well, congratulations on that 2nd place. You're probably feeling a little bit hard done by that safety car, but first of all, just talk us through the race. How did that feel?
Not good. Yeah, it's frustrating. It was gonna be a pretty dominant win, but yeah, just the safety car in the worst timing possible. When I already broke the DRS, and yeah, in Vegas is little you can do with if you don't have the DRS to defend. So yeah.
Yeah, very much is just an instant loss, especially on that final lap. But I mean, I feel like you could be proud with how that race went until that safety car, of course. And I mean, even then, you carved through those soft runners nicely. It was just the same. Shontos was able to do the same thing. But you went for that overcut. Very opportunistic. Were you expecting everybody to squabble? And then with those fresher tyres, just pick up the pieces and just shoot off in the distance like you did?
Well, I sort of wanted to box for an undercut in lap 8, and I didn't. And then they undercutted me, so I thought, okay, well, let's just go long. Otherwise, I would just lose 2-3 positions, and there was no point in boxing a lap later. So yeah, I just went for the tail delta and hoped for having enough delta to overtake them in the second stint, and I did. It was a pretty nice overtaking, but yeah, clearly sometimes skill is not enough, and you need to depend on luck as well.
Yeah, of course. Luck is a big factor in these races, and I mean, just of course, what were your thoughts going on to that after that safety car restart? Of course, you made it past Carlos Galindo, and then of course you had of course Jontos just behind him into turn one. Was you hoping that Galindo was just going to be able to hold on that little bit more so he could break that DRS?
Yeah, exactly, but I just underestimated how powerful were the softs. So yeah, I probably should have just drained the battery and tried to um, disappear into the distance, but I didn't. And yeah, I mean, even if I did, probably with the DRS, he would have got past me. So it is what it is.
Yeah, of course, still a strong result to be proud of, and of course we still have a long old season ahead, so a podium to kick things off isn't too bad. But yeah, congratulations. And Joseph, do you have any questions for Diego?
No, I just think it was congratulations. I mean, it was very tricky at the end, but it sets the tone well for your season. So yeah, well done.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Diego, and yeah, thank you for a great race as well. Right then, Joseph, as we head back to us, there's one thing we haven't gone through so far this evening. I think it's quite important we go through it before we finish things off, and that is the calendar for the rest of the season. So here we are. Here is the season 22 calendar. Of course, we started off here tonight at Las Vegas, and then next week we head over to Silverstone. We head over to Northamptonshire for what should be another spectacular race before we make our way over to Monza for round 3. I presume Italy is Monza. Then we head to Saudi Arabia for round 4. The fifth round of the season, halfway point of the season's at Mexico, and then we head over to Canada for round 6 before Austria, the final race before the Christmas and New Year break. That will be the last round of 2025 before Bahrain at round 8, which potentially could be replaced by Miami if the bump on the exit of turn 4 is not fixed. But that will be the first race of the new year, will be around 8 before we make our way to China and then finish the season off where all seasons should finish at Sao Paulo. And going by today's racing here, Joseph, I think we can have a title all the way to the wire.
Certainly do. I mean, I mentioned it at the start of the broadcast. It's very much a very tight grid, so it's a very, very exciting time for everybody to watch. So make sure you subscribe, stick around. Of course, you can watch the other tiers as well. There was 4 tiers broadcast this evening. There was 4, wasn't there? There was 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, there was 4 tiers broadcast this evening. So there's plenty of action. I hear tier 5 in particular was very, very good to watch.
Yeah, there is plenty of action for you guys to stick around and watch. Of course, we have the console tiers over the course of Thursday and Friday. Tier 2 on the Thursday, and then Tier 1 on the Friday. I think, is World still going on, Joseph, or is that finished? Or is...
I believe it is still going on. I don't know why it would have finished. I just bring it up now, but I'm 99% sure you've made me doubt myself. Yes, it is still going on. It's break week this week, but there is still 5 rounds of the season still to go. So you can watch that one as well.
Yes, of course, watch that. Watch PC Tier 1 as well on Thursday alongside those console divisions. And of course, join me and what will hopefully be Corey next week at 8 PM GMT. Should be some quite eventful racing at Silverstone. But Joseph, do you have any last words before we end off the first round of the season?
Just thank you for having me. And I mean, it was a very good race, and I'll certainly be watching on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I don't think you could have asked for any better. And once again, thank you for joining me this evening. And thank you all at home for watching as well. This would not be possible without you guys or the drivers. And so with that, we're going to round off the first round of the season. It is Shontos who takes that first upper hand in that championship picture. But how is the rest of the season going to play out? Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you 8 p.m. next week for what should be a Battle of Britain. Thank you and goodbye.